Hey guys, Mal here, and today we're taking a look at the base building meta in Rust. Over the years, going from legacy to experimental to what Rust is today, things have changed drastically to say the least. With the changes to Rust has come a variety of different metas for base building. Some extremely talented builders, like my friend and fellow YouTuber WURST, have spent an immense amount of time creating some of the most intricate, well thought out and incredible bases that I've ever seen. Some even went to the extreme of being over 100 rocket raids. These designs are the pinnacle of Rust base building. There is no better, there is no reason to use anything else. Or is there? Recently my group and I took a break from Rust. It usually happens every 1,000 hours or so. We all need a vacation and venture out to all sorts of other games. Upon returning to Rust this time though, things were different. We didn't have any major clashes with any of the groups, or end up needing to get revenge on anyone. It was just kinda peaceful, with some fun PvP encounters thrown in. That changed our perspective on Rust. Pretty much all the wipes we've ever played have been fairly serious. We pour a ton of time into the wipe weekend and are usually raiding people by the second day after our base is done. So we decided to try something different. We started running hotels, fireworks stores, and more, using each wipe to do something different from the norm. Now you might be wondering how this is all relevant to the current base building meta. See, because we were doing random stuff instead of being all serious, we started trying ridiculous stuff with our bases. The logic was simple. We aren't farming heaps of booms, so we don't have to worry about having it super secure. So instead of the usual 60 rocket raid that we build, we aimed for 30-ish. We didn't really care about the expense or the security all that much. We mostly wanted the base to be accessible and fun. What we discovered in doing this was that it was still only the big zergs that could raid us. Normal groups either didn't attempt it or failed. To be clear, there was no difference across 4 wipes when our base was much weaker than other designs. This led me to the realization that a lot of Rust players are severely impacting their time, resources, and effort for basically no gain. Now you could argue that the extra protection is the gain, however realistically, any group that is going to do a 30 rocket raid will easily have the resources to make another 30 or 50 or even 100 rockets to raid you. It just hits a point where if only the zergs are going to raid you, then you're good. You can't stop them, but the average Rust player is not going to pull off a 30 rocket raid. What I'm trying to say is don't be afraid to do something different and move away from the meta. Not every base needs to have drop downs with traps or kill bunkers or roof blocks. You can actually make a base quite spacious and nice while still maintaining enough security to stay safe. With that ideology in mind, I'd like to introduce the house in a box base design. At its core, it is really just a well-organized 2x2. You could do some tricky bullshit like swap the internal doors out for windows, but honestly, I'd rather the convenience of garage doors. We have 5 people currently living out of this thing quite comfortably, but you could easily have more once you finish the build. It's about a 28 rocket raid to TC and loot, and that's if they hit the correct side. In saying that, the design of the interior can change which side is the correct side to hit, so don't be afraid to change things up in there. If they don't hit the correct side, it'll cost some more to get to your main loot and TC. If they try and come in through the doors or roof, it's a lost cause because there are so many damn layers. The thing that I love about this design is that you can evolve a starting 2x2 into this as you progress through a wipe. So let's take a look at building this base. We start by getting a standard 2x2 down. Make sure that you're using double doors initially so that you can upgrade to garage doors eventually. This will be more costly initially, but you'll be glad that you did it later. You can set it out however you like internally. What I'm doing is just my personal preference. Now as you build your airlock, you can use single doors if you're wanting the added security of blocking the inner doorway. Eventually though, to improve security, you'll either need an armored door or you'll have to pick out this door frame and replace it with a wall frame. Now from here we expand the airlock and add our first layer of honeycombing. Nothing fancy around the sides, just your usual honeycombing. On top, however, is a bit different. Firstly, we want to put low walls in a plus pattern on the core 2x2. Then we want to go back inside and looking outwards towards each section, place roofing around the 2x2. Then we duck back up onto the roof and upgrade it all to stone or ideally metal. You might be wondering why we put the low walls inside the roof. See, if someone decides to roof raid your base and you haven't got those, then 4 or 8 rockets will open up the entire roof of your base to them. However, with those, they have to choose one square to go into, or blow 4 or 8 rockets to get rid of them, and then another 4 or 8 rockets to get into the base. It's a ridiculously small cost to really hinder and deter roof raiding. Now up until this point, everything's been fairly standard. We've built a nice standard honeycomb 2x2. However, now it's time to get crazy. We want to start by surrounding the base with foundations. This is going to be an odd mix of both square and triangle foundations. Just keep making your way around until you have it all connected and surrounded the base. Next, pick 4 spots to have doors and place wall frames. Ideally, you want to spread your doors out so that you can exit your base from any side of it. This should help you get in and out of your base if you have people sniping at you from somewhere. Once you've got those 4 wall frames down, fill in the rest of the walls with window frames. There are multiple reasons we are going with the window frames over using metal shop fronts. For one, the metal cost is much cheaper to use reinforced windows. Another reason being that you can swap the windows out from braziers if you need to defend your base. They can also be picked up as an emergency way to exit your base if for whatever reason none of the doors are a viable option. Next, we need to deal with the roof, which much like the foundations is going to be a weird mix of squares and triangles. Also, pick 2 places you'd like upstairs access to be, ideally on opposite sides from one another. You can place some stairs at each so you remember to leave the roof open. Once you have ladder hatch, you can replace the stairs with them and secure the levels separately. Now that the roof is filled in and upgraded, minus the 2 access points, we're going to add a second level, because we want to honeycomb the roof as well, so why not use the space? Place windows around the entire outside perimeter of the base. Fill in the roof, leaving 1 square free for now. Once that's all upgraded, we're going up onto the roof to honeycomb the final part of the roofing. Add half walls and a plus over the core 2x2 like we did earlier, then seal it in with more half walls and some floor. Upgrade it to stone or ideally metal. You now have another full layer of honeycombing around your entire base, as well as 2 viewing or shooting floors. There are a few things I'd like to mention in regards to this design. Firstly, this is not a base for a solo player. I mean, you could do it, but god damn you're gonna have to be dedicated because it's a pricey build with high upkeep. Secondly, we ended up with this design because we kept getting door camped, so we expanded with visibility and accessibility in mind. Also, if you build in the right place and put your foundations down just right, not only can you drink through the floor, but you can also plant an entire garden across the flooring throughout your base. Now let's say you're in a bigger group, and as the wipe progresses, you get more and more people on, and you're finding things are getting cramped. This design allows you to easily add new levels with entirely new layouts. It should allow for enough expansion that a considerably big group should be fine. This is a solid all-rounder base for groups to use. It's simple to implement, can be upgraded from a starter, and gives you excellent accessibility and visibility over your area. As I said earlier, I've used this design for a few wipes now, and this tanky little thing holds up. It's nothing fancy, but it's just solid layers for people to get through, and it's quite easy to recognize that before sinking booms into it. Since starting to use the concept of adding the viewing layer, we've experimented further by adding an internal large furnace and refinery room, adding a big shop, and most recently attaching a boat warehouse to it. I say warehouse because once you can store over 10 boats in there, I don't think it's just a house anymore. Anyway, that's it from me this time around. Thanks for watching, and if you're new around here, it'd be awesome if you could swing me a like and subscribe. Again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.